War Wednesdays. Let's take a look at the rise of the Green Tide. So right here, like always, we like to start with Meta Monday. We're looking at the data slate table since pretty much the data slate. So it's about 11 weeks ago now. Orks are pretty much tied with Leagues of Votann at the total tournament wins for 10. Chaos Space Marines and Eldar being ahead of them. That's actually a really good spot for us. But overall, our win percentage, as you can see, is actually sitting at 51% now, right? So post data slate, it's actually 51%. But if you look at the Meta Watch, it's 53. So I think Meta Watch is a slight different variation of that. But overall, I like to look at the actual post data slate number. And you can see that's been brought down. We were sitting somewhere where we were looking like bullies, we were looking like tyrants, and now we're looking a little bit evened out here now. A part of that is because Leagues of Votann and it's kind of come out of nowhere and started to beat up on us some here or there, some places. Other factions like Chaos Space Marines obviously being much better than they used to be. But Space Marines getting their codexes, and Tyranids having a codex, and then a little bit of other factions, such as Death Guard sleeping up, coming up out of nowhere and increasing their win rate as well, right? Over this actual weekend, the Orks got good placings, but you know our win rate has been coming down a bit, and a lot of people can actually feel that as you've seen of his players. So another thing we like to look at around here is Goonhammer 40k stats, where we do faction versus faction. So 9, 15, 23 to 11, 29 is what I have up right now for the Orks. So this is actually versus faction. And actually I right now have it open to the Leviathan, so let me change it to GT. Actually, that's good. You guys can see how I actually do this. So as you have it up, if any of you guys choose to do this, and you have to come over here and press Orks, and then you can actually look this up if you choose yourself. But this is actually since the GT changes to percentage, and you can see consistently, actually this is probably fourth or fifth week in a row, we've seen Astra Militarum being our actually hardest matchup, followed by Death Guard, which is another very hard matchup. Let's see how this Adeptus Mechanicus matchup goes. 46 wins is not enough to really extrapolate a lot on, so I pretty much kind of ignore that, no offense. But Tyranids, 43%, Codex, Vanguard, High Fleet Nexus, and then even Invasion's Fleet are all very viable. Leagues of Votann, their win rate against us is actually decreased. Our win rate has increased against them. I think maybe they have been switching their lists around, trying to get over in the tier 1 placement, or maybe it's just because people are really playing them more, even without the most optimal lists. That's what really I can see being, because at the very top of competitive Votann lists, there's still a very hard matchup for us in most missions. Mission matters too. Eldar, of course, but also interesting. Black Templars is something that's a little bit more competitive out of all the Space Marine matchups. I think that's because Ironstorm is already the most competitive version. But then if you take that and you make it Black Templars, or even if you run a very competitive Black Templars with the Gladius Task Force, you can actually have a competitive Black Templar list, because Space Marines are a combined assault forms. So really, they like to shoot you and fight you, and that kind of combined force service is actually how Space Marines can somewhat overcome Orks. I still think Orks overall are just much better than Space Marines in that matchup, but yeah, Black Templars help kind of even that out for them. And then Grey Knight, I think that's something that if you're just a really good Ork player and you have a list that can cover the table, it's more of a movement game at that point, right? So Orks, again, our main three right now are Astra Militarum, Death Guard. Those have been the top two. And then Leagues of Votann and Tyranids kind of go back and forth between the weeks on what's actually a very difficult matchup for us. I don't think that catches anybody off guard. I think a lot of our players that are actually out here in our Discord and such can actually feel that. You're thinking about, what am I doing against Astra Militarum? They're taking fixed secondaries for the most part. They're constantly regenning units. We can't consistently kill their most durable units. Death Guard being able to stack their ability debuffs on us and such. And Tyranids with their multiple detachment rules, know their detachment rules, know their data sheet capabilities, and don't let them put you on your back foot. That's something that I learned myself with Tyranids. Leagues of Votann, though, if they have a lot of Sagitar, that's a very, very hard matchup for you. If they're not running a bunch of Sagitar, that could be a little bit better. So really, I think that's list dependent and mission dependent. But Leagues of Votann, if not, they can just destroy. But with that being said, Orks doing great. Let's look at some lists, right? And I'm excited to start off with this first list. So this is coming out of the Mad Warhammer 40k GT. This is out of the USA, and this weekend, you guys, you'll see some of the players groups are smaller. It was, Thanksgiving weekend, so a lot of people were kind of doing stuff like that and paying attention. So yeah, we have 31 players here. But what's interesting about this is Edwin Cho is actually part of our Discord, been a channel member for a long time, and he got 6 plays with the Orks, going 4-1, and he had a nice road. I thought it was interesting the road he went through because it was pretty difficult based off what we were able to see, what we actually just talked about, right? So with that being said, let me just look at the chats real quick before I dive right in. Giving everyone, once we get some WAAAGH up here. Whoa! Let's go. And then we have Wicked Joe. Whoa, everybody. Oh, actually, Edwin Cho is here. What's up, Edwin Cho? So if you guys ask him questions if you want, if you're in the chat, can directly, good job coming back on that. We got a bunch of walls, how the boys are all here. No gas, just Meganops. Hey, there's some gas on this list, you guys, that we're talking forward. So, all right, so you guys are all caught up with the chats. Let's take a look at Edwin Cho's list. Now, if you guys actually joined last week's stream on Friday, I believe, where we did our hobby stream, we actually covered this list. He sent it in. We pulled it up on our stream. We reviewed it. So we're going to talk about it again, show you guys, and then I'll tell you the actual criticism I gave it. It wasn't really criticism. It was like moderate adjustments, right? But he didn't take any of my adjustments, and that's totally fine. So here we go. We have a Beast Boss, Captain Badrock, Mazraz, Cragbeck, Nabmas Magic Squid, Edwap Skill Choppa. That's the way I like to see the relic. Warboss with Follow Me Lads, and then another Warboss. Beast Snaggle Boys, 4 trucks, Flash Kits, 2 units of Gretchen, 2 5-man units of Nobz with Power Claws, 1 brick of Squighog Boys, 1 small 3-man unit of Squighog Boys, 2 Storm Boy units. Boom. Right off the bat, what you would think I would say is I actually like to combine these 2 units of Nobz to make 1 big hammer. He liked having 2 broken down hammers. He said that it was nice that he could throw one out on not a wall turn and then reserve one for the wall turn. And even then, sometimes that first unit that went out wasn't prioritized as a target, so then it would stay alive, and then that war boss would kind of be able to get off on the wall anyways. Having Beast Snaggle Boys meant that he could throw units out there and kind of make people either overcommit or undercommit on them because they have their Fional Pains, their weird toughness. Now I like the Orks have the 5-up armor save. They used to not have that, guys. He has a 6-up armor save back in the day. And then Captain Badrock. Captain Badrock and the Flash Kits just serve a huge vital role for us between overwatching, giving threats of at range, destroying screens, stuff like that. And having 4 trucks really does matter on this list. I run something very similar to the list as well. So, and I like that he has 1 small unit of Squighog Boys that got skirmish, contest, and then 2 Stormboy units, right? That's almost like mandatory. So with that being said, let's look at some of his matchups real quick. He did have a interesting road. And let's start with his first matchup. So his first matchup was actually Vanguard Assault. So Tyranids, let's go. Death Leaper, Hive Tyrant with Nero Node, Winged Hive Tyrant with Stalker, Winged Prime with Chameleonic. 2 Gargoyle units. You don't know what Gargoyles units to do. They're actually very, very annoying as they can move, advance, shoot, and then move again. So really all Gargoyles are being used to screen, to move block, to get in your way. And actually something, because Edwin shows in our Discord, he directly told me that he was surprised that the Tyranid player put these in Deep Strike. So he decided to actually put them in Deep Strike, which was great for Edwin Cho. He was very happy about that because he was like, dude, those guys things would get in my way. We all know, guys, because all the player has to do as a Tyranid player is take those Gargoyles, move around and surround your vehicle. You can't disembark. You can't do certain things. Get in the way of your Squighog Boys, get in the way of Maz. He can really choke you up. That's really, really bothersome, especially if they go first. Chaos units can do that too with Nurglings, but not as annoying as like a Gargoyles will do it from their deployment, run across. And unless you have Flash Kits already deployed on the table and overwatching them, they're just going to do it for free, right? That's sort of like our only way to really overcome that. They have a Neuro Site, which is like their version of a transport. It's kind of like a drop pod. Just imagine a drop pod. Exocrine, 1 small unit of Gene Stealers. Hive Crone, which is a flying like monster. Neurolictor, Psychophage, Raveners. Raveners can actually come off the table and come back on, so they're actually really good with Vanguard Onslaught. Trigon, and then the Warrior unit with bioweapons, Von Ryan Leaper. So this guy looks like maybe he just kind of compiled a couple things that he had, was trying to feel this out, took things that he liked. Maybe he was trying to be a little too quirky. Wasn't, I can see, all of us can see that this isn't necessarily the most meta, but don't worry about that because Edwin did put this player away. It was a little weird because you could see he got weird on points, right? This was a weird points one that he said with the player. But going into his next matchup, as you can see, Edwin did have to deal with the Synaptic Hive Fleet. So he actually did take a loss here, and that is partially because this is a very, very annoying and troublesome matchup, right, with the Tyranids. So we have Death Leaper, Hive Tyrant, Synaptic Control, Neural Tyrant, Power of the Hive Mind, 2 Gargoyles again, Biovores, Maliceptor, Neural Lictor, Neural Lictor, Neural Lictor, Norn Assimilator, Norn Emissary, Pyrovores, and then Ripper Swarms. So as you can see right here, he brought out the triple Norn list. Very, very bothersome. And a Maliceptor. So that Maliceptor actually compounds their defensive capability as well. Very, very annoying. And in this case, we actually do know. Let me pull this up real quick for you guys. You actually do know the missions. I should have started with this before I kept going. Just slipped my head. We actually do know the missions for what he was using for each of his missions. So for this one, it was the ritual. One key mistake that he said he made here is that he made an objective on the ritual that he was not able to keep and retain. Therefore, the Tyranid player was actually able to keep and retain that objective, which has ended up being one of his kind of downfalls here in this matchup. Killing the Norns actually can sway in much ways, right? We already see that he doesn't have the big what we call Scalpel unit with the Nobz and the Warboss. He doesn't have a bunch of beast mega units and ready to really come in there and really contest these Norns. So really, he is kind of hoping that he spikes on dev wounds, mortal wounds, hopes that he doesn't save on feel no pains and such like that. And so this mission, that's really what one thing that he said was his big problem is he made that objective. The player was actually able to take that objective from him, hold that for the rest of the mission. And this ended up being his one loss. We have this in my meta. Actually, like, and it is a very troublesome matchup. So what are you going to really do when there's all these guys? They have a bunch of OC, plus if the one I play against has multiple Maliceptors on the list, so then you actually have to take another -1 to hit there as well. So there's no shame in losing to this. I think this is something that, as people can get more Norns and put them together, maybe before points change or anything like that, you're going to have to face this if you're really trying to get to the top tables, in my opinion. This is a very problematic Tyranid list, especially in Nexus, because he's going to reduce the AP as well. So there's nothing wrong in losing this matchup. I mean, it's a very competitive list. Either way, as we go forward, you'll see that he had to fight Norn multiple times. So yeah, let's go into his next matchup. Sorry, and the first one was the first mission. He was... Sorry, I messed up on my note there, guys. The first mission he had taken was priority targets with a Dawn of War deployment. Sorry. So let's go into his third matchup. So his third matchup, this game was actually Mission L, Scorched Earth, Chilling Rain, Dawn of War. So as you can see, this was actually being benefit to him. Going into Leagues of Votann, Rocks and Stone. We have the Einherjar Champion, Akal, Hearthguard Warriors, transport with 2 Sagittars. So and we keep going. Broknir, Thunderkin, some Berserkers. I think Berserkers are totally fine. I mean, into Orks, they have like the right profile, in my opinion, that they can actually punch us pretty good. We have 1, 2, 3. Einherjar Hearthguard units, but they are only in 5-man units. Then we have 2, 3 land fortresses and 2 Sagittars. So as you can see, this guy's just all transport up. And then he has 2 Pioneer units. Very vital to coming in and off on the side of the table. He said he had a problem with actually trying to interact with those and didn't feel like he killed them fast enough. In this matchup, because it was Scorched Earth, he said that actually ended up playing in his favor, as he was able to deny primary by burning some of the objectives. He said that the enemy player didn't commit high enough on some Beast Naga boys, who ended up surviving a bit longer than they should have. And in this matchup, the mission really does matter into them, because he really did end up getting tabled. He said he did end up getting tabled. In my meta, I actually run into about 2 10-man units of these Hearthguards and a 5-man unit. That's what I end up having to run into. So yeah, I'm not surprised at all about this. This is a different but very, very problematic matchup, because Orks don't have any direct, other than Dev Wounds, ways to contest these land fortresses, and sometimes they'll try to throw them on the middle objective and say, hey, come kill me. Luckily, if you have Adwapas and you have a beast boss and stuff, you can try to kill it. But you have to know in mind that if they're bringing that because they're really going to challenge and stat check you on that. So great job on there, because Leagues of Votann are such a hard matchup for us. The mission did end up playing a factor for him, and he was aware of that. But it's really up to you as the player to take advantage of that and be willing to be tabled to control your rate of attrition and die in a way that you can actually pull back that win. So here's mission number 4. This is as Adeptus Sororitas. Let's see. And the 4th mission was mission E, Take and Hold, Sweep and Engagement. Okay, so I think that's a good mission for the Orks for the most part here. So we have Dialogus, Morgenvol, Palatine, Preacher, and Triumph of St. Catherine. He said the Triumph was quite durable. It took all his knobs to do it. Once it died, it came back up. 1 unit of Battle Sisters with 2 Rhinos, 3 Arcoflagellant units. He said they're very durable for what their points are and what they really are. They have a great fighting output. Even to get into Orks is pretty good and respectable. A Castigator, 3 units of Crusaders. Look at that, for 25 points, guys. Go out there and get so many stupid activations and get to play the mission. Exorcist, the Paragon War Suits, he said, were they're great profiles, but actually the Flash Suits kind of had them in bay. He said that the player was actually worried about being overwatched and kind of put them in a not favorable position for them. We have Seraphim Squad, and a Caladius Assassin. He said this was a good fight. You know, Sisters want to try to contest you in the middle of the objectives. I think they don't trade that well with Orks, and even if they kind of break a unit down from ours, even a slightly broken down unit from Orks can really still pick up entire units for them. And overall, Orks they're trying to beat us at something we want to do. But as you can see with the points, another kind of lower score for him, even though he did well with 57. And last but certainly not least, he still had to go against the Norn Supremacy. He had to go against Norn again with a Synaptive High Fleet. He got another rematch. He got another retake. He said, you know what? Last time I dropped it, but I got this. So he has a Death Leaper, Nero Tyrant, Biovore, Exocrine, Maliceptor, Neurolictor, Norn Assimilator, and Norn Emissary. Mind you, on this one, he was Mission K. So it was Deploy Servo Skulls. Pyrovore, Ripper. He said that people at the tournament were mad because it was, Deploy Servo Skulls. I know some people go back and forth about this. He said what happened here is he actually tried to get away, pretty much played takeaway with the objectives, as the Tyranid player did try to just go right up on the line. He ended up taking the initiative, so he was able to kind of put in position where he wanted to kill a bunch of stuff, keep the objective away from the Nords, use his own models to kind of hold the Norn actually physically back so he couldn't get to things, and ended up pulling out the win like that. You know, and something that I really thought about with this as well is, you know, in my meta, and a lot of metas I play in tournaments that we cover in general, they won't play with sometimes serval skulls, or maybe even sometimes ritual, or burning objectives. They hate kind of some of these missions that you're going to end up playing because they see them as kind of tacky or harder to get off or not competitive. Sorry, Scorchers, I was having a brain fart on there on live, but I think that actually helps with armies that are a little too overtuned in 40k and don't play 40k in a consistent way. They just want to stand and shoot or do something dumb and play stationary or kind of feed you with weird activations. I like these kind of missions, and I think they make for a diverse meta and kind of way to play in matchups. Maybe not Servo Skull. I think it could be a little silly, but in general, you know, rituals and stuff like that, I think is actually really fun. So great job by Edwin Cho here. You can see with, like we said, with his list, he had 2 small units of Snagas. Oh, sorry, get rid of this. He had 2 small units of Nobz. You know, he had everything that we typically bring, and I pretty much bring something very common, similar to this list. Brad Chester is bringing something similar to this list. I don't know what we would call this Ork archetype, which I would say is a Beast Boss, Captain Badrook, Mozrog, Nabas Magical, Edwap, Chilchapa, and Warboss. But essentially, those 5 characters end up on so much kind of like their own archetype. It almost feels like a toolkit bag because you have something for everything. You have someone who's durable, you have from throwaway, you have something for killing and scalpeling out units, you have something for dev, you have something for holding objectives and counterplay. It's kind of weird how that works. So he just called it GT list. So I don't know what I would call it either. But that archetype, maybe we call it the tool bag kit. I don't know what it is, but it's great. Great job, Edwin Cho. So yeah, doing it for the whoa in the green tide, because he's been a part of our channel in the Discord for a hot minute. So I actually immediately recognized it when we went over the list. I had actually covered on stream, and then I actually when I was doing my research on it. I was like, oh, he's right there. He did great. And he pulled up on Meta Monday, so I was like, let's do it. Now, as for another matchup, I'll check chat right now. But this is the other next list we're gonna go to for Vincent Chandler. Great. Oh, and then we have WAAAGH! Wicked Joe gifted 5 WAAAGH Tactic memberships. Make sure you collect those WAAAGH Tactic memberships, guys. You just have to accept them. You get little emojis. Can we get some Warbosses, some Ghaz? I'll accept some Runt Herders, a Mega Knob, anything big and grumpy as emoji so we can get up on stream. Some of you guys with the you gifted memberships, for Wicked Joe, let's represent on stream. Let me get some of those going. Let's see if you guys are going everything. Yep. So you guys are just talking in chat. Make sure I didn't miss anything. Edwin Cho with the whoa. So yeah, any of you collect them memberships and put them emojis in the chat. That way, you pick a Mega Knob, anything big and swole, right? We need them swole boots, right? All right. So let's take a look at Partisan Games GT. This one's actually out of the United Kingdom. It was actually a smaller event. But it's okay. We're still going to cover because it's still 5 games, really thick. And let's take a look at Vincent's list. And that did kind of rhyme in a weird way, right? So he called this bad boys for life. We got Ghazghkull, Mozrog Stomp. We seeing this again, the dynamic duo. We seen what's his name, $1 Billion Crown Farm. I think he did this to maybe it was an event, I believe he did this where he put Maz and Ghaz on the same list. Adwapa Skill Choppa on Naban Smash on Naban Smash Good. I love that. A Pain Boy though, not a Pain Boss. I know some of you guys are thinking Pain Boss. I can heal Maz. No, a Pain Boy. A Warboss, another Warboss. Beast Snagger Boys, 2 10-man units of boys, 4 trucks, 2 Gretchen units, only 2-man units of Mega Knobs, another 5-man, and another 5-man units of Knobs, followed by 2 3-man units of Squigs, 2 Storm Boys, and a War Biker unit. So this, I like this. Oh wait, oops, was it 2 War Biker units? No, okay. Oh yeah. I like this trio right here. Everybody knows you guys need this for scoring. This is the scoring. 2 Storm Boys and War Bikers. Boom. I love to bring that. It always feels good. Storm Boys can either run around, run through terrain, just go tag stuff, drop in the backfield, score certain things. The Bikers sometimes survive longer, screen because they're thick. Assault keyword sometimes matters. It's great to have them for scoring. 3-man Squig Hog Boy units are great for contesting and kind of skirmishing. Like I'm just going to throw there and make you kind of pick them up. And then 2 knob units again, right? So we've seen this twice, Edwin's list and this list. So they must be onto something. I think I'm still into the 10-man unit. I still think there's a lot of stuff you want to punch out, but 2 5-man units can be excellent because the Warboss himself acts as like 3 knobs by himself. And people ask me all the time, with Ghaz, what do I do? Break? No, I very much think if you're gonna take Ghaz, take either a 3-man unit or 2 of Mega Knobs. And the reason is you don't need a big profile, so you're getting shot. You don't want all that, investment in points. And really, the 2-man units are there just so that you can deliver Ghaz, and on the wall, he gets the dev wounds from the Mega Knobs. So that ends up being great in itself. And or you're using him to actually collect the grenade, mortal wounds from the grenades, and have those guys soak up those mortal wounds if someone tries to throw grenades into Ghaz and try to pick up Makari too early, right? So even a 3-man unit works for that. And I like 2-man units of Gretchen. 4 trucks feels great. So nobody likes that. And then the boys, putting just boys in trucks, throw them forward early game. Maybe that's what they're for. Maybe he wants to hold them back so that Inceptors can't just drop down and erase and pick stuff up. I had a lot of success running 10-man units of trucks with boys, and so did the whole meta as a whole. But you can also have the Pain Boy for one of those units of boys. Maybe you put them in the knobs. I'm pretty sure you put them in the boys zone. That way you throw them up there. They drop out of the truck. Oh, you're going to commit to me with my feel no pain. So very, very good job here on the list. What he kind of did, he made sure he had just enough scoring and durability and throwaway between the truck boy unit, which we're going to call it, right? A boys and a truck, which is combat truck boy unit. So between having a truck boy unit, having these units that could run out and do dev wounds with the beast snaggle boy units, and then having this actual armor penetration knob units actually in play as well. So that's really cool. And then some skirmishing Squig Hog boy units. So he did great for having Maz and Ghaz on the list. He decided I need a lot of activations. So let's see what he ended up going into, because that's going to matter a lot, because we've seen people bring Maz and Ghaz and then bring a bunch of other killy stuff. He decided I'm not bringing a bunch of killy stuff. I'm just bringing a lot of activations, and he didn't bring flash kits. So let's see what he went into, because a lot of people really think flash kits are important. So we have Blood Angels with Gladius Task Force, Astroth, Commander Dante, Judicia, Lamartis, Labarian and Phobos Armor Lieutenant, and Sanguarius Priest with your jump pack. So this guy is fully committed with Hero Hammer. Astroth and all these guys for fighting. He has assault intercessors with jump pack, a ball predator, blade guard veterans, Death Company Marines with jump packs, infiltrators, and then Vanguard squads with jump packs. Here's one thing I'll say, guys. When you're going into a fighting army as Ork, here's our one advantage for the most part is that we have a built-in. We can just fight in death with that strat. If someone really wants to come into you, if they do somehow find the initiative into you through all your trucks, through your ability to advance in charge, if somehow someone did get an initiative on you as Orks, you can fight in death. So not only do we have the capability to get the initiative by staying in our vehicles, not letting them get popped, because here you're not seeing there's any lancers to reliably pop our transports. He's really just trying to jump across the table at us and run into our trucks. So that's not really going to work too well against Orks as 4 transports, and then you have Maz and Gas. So you're just destroying all that stuff and running that guy over. It's not the most competitive list, but hey, I always say that Orks do great in Sabikis and power armor, especially if they want to go toe-to-toe with us and fight. Now, but this is important. This was his second game, and he ended up losing this. And this is a list that I think is important for everybody to pay attention to as an Ork player. It's something that I'm personally trying to tech against or think about as well when I'm creating my list right now, which is the Dark Angels list with Vanguard Spearhead Detachment. So we have the Apothecary Biologist, Captain and Gravis armor. I think he's slept on. He reduces damage. He's very durable, for that way because he's Gravis Marine, and then he fights pretty good when you put the blade driven deep. And he fights in general, he fights pretty good. The Librarian of Phobos armor, Enhancement Shadow of War veteran, and then Lionel Johnson. Now, I would not say to expect Lionel Johnson on every list. Some people might bring him, some people might not. But in general, this is still a competitive detachment and something you should pay attention to, even without Lionel Johnson. So he has a Aggressor Squad with the Autostorm Gauntlets, the Eliminator Squad, no Eliminator Squad, a Lancer, Infiltrators, a Predator Annihilator, and 2 Whirlwinds. So this is a different version because it doesn't have Terminator bricks. In general, the aggressors are coming forward. That's really what you're trying to think about. We did a video about how to deal with Vanguard and such and all their capabilities. But as a whole, their movement shenanigans can be a problem for us. He has a weird kind of firepower here between the Predator Annihilators and the Lancers. This is actually one of the few lists because of the amount of firepower he has, that he actually has the capability to take out all the amount of trucks that we have. Has a small alarms fire even between Overwatch to kill those smaller units. Squiggle Boys, once you reduce the unit to, even by 1, sometimes it can't really fight anymore. And then Lionel Johnson actually is one of the few units in the characters in the game that can go toe-to-toe with Gaz, toe-to-toe with Maz, maybe for a little bit and such. So in general, and then Whirlwinds, of course, are very powerful. So this is one of those things where he kind of does have enough big brick and killy durable potential in the initiative to deal with Orks and pop our transports and possibly take out Vincent. We don't know what the mission was or what the terrain looks like, because I'm sure that came to play as well. Typically, Orks aren't really that worried about so many elite firepower units, but I have a feeling Lionel Johnson ended up being a problem in this matchup and this Captain and Gravis armor, because him by himself can sometimes cut down a lot of Ork units when you're fighting. So he did end up dropping that game, but it's okay because we're going into his game 3. So as game 3, we have the Space Marine, Space Marines. I don't know what the heck. Say the Chaos Space Marine. Sorry, I don't know why I looked at this. So we have Chaos Space Marines, Chaos Lord with a Demon Prince with wings. Sorry, I was looking all over the place. Just looking a little weird. A Cultist Mob with the Mark of Zeech. Legionnaire Squad, another Legionnaire Squad. Obliterators with Nurgling Mark, 2 Obliterators, Undivided, Possessed, Chaos Bikers, Forge Fiend, Venom Crawlers, and Marks and Nurgle, and then only 1 Rhino. Now, Chaos Space Marines think the same way that Space Marines think, is they want to do a combined arms force, but Space Marines want to front load their damage into shooting, and then they kind of and Chaos Marines want to do the opposite. They want to shoot you pretty hard, but really in reality, they want to crump you. They want to get stuck in and actually kill you. But I think they do that better when they break it down with their Chaos Lords and have more Rhinos than on this list. I think for the most part, most of the defensive buffs and the way they're kind of thinking is, I'm going to get shot. And when they go into Orks, is why Orks don't really have a losing matchup into them all the time necessarily. Some of their units just aren't really even fighting us or shooting us really well. I know their bikes aren't for that. They're trying to like remove them and redeploy them and such. But this is one of those units that they're not really doing any damage with us, right? Possessed, if we do get a charge off on them or a fight off in death, we're killing them. These obliterator units, they're not doing enough damage on their own with their activations to kill enough stuff to make us too worried. And they're not really fighting for objective OC, and they're super dumb slow. And then all these legionaries, which even with their buffs and capabilities, they can fight us toe to toe, but Orks are gonna be able to get the initiative off on them, even if they can sometimes get it off on us as well. And then that way we're too reliable and too good at scoring and activations. And we're just too fast around the whole table for this kind of foot sluggy kind of, I have a lot of weird small activations units. And he did end up bringing this Heretic Astartes Cayman Demon Prince, which, in some matchups, I'm sure he does excellent and he kills very hard, but it's one of those things with Orks where it's like, did you kill me hard enough? No, well, I'm still here and I still have so many activations left over and so many durable units that I'm just going to keep going up the table and scoring well with you. So, when you're running Gaz and Moz, and remember, guys, Gaz, when he runs Makari and Makari goes, I'm going to just pop lethal right now, and you decide I'm going to use Unbridled Carnage. Unbridled Carnage is essentially critical 5 in the wording. That means it becomes sustained 5+ and lethal 5+ when he goes off. So when you do pop that strat, not only are you throttling across the table for the rest of your units with Gaz, but now with that one unit that you pop that strat on is doing obnoxious amount of damage. And overall, people go, well, maybe Gaz is like a win more capability, or a his lethal wound doesn't really make sense or isn't really worth it. I don't really see the point in it. I think people just don't really think about optimizing it, and they don't consider the fact that sometimes Orks can really whiff on their wall, and Gaz is like a double assurance that you're not going to whiff on the wall, in my opinion, right? So yeah, still a great job by him. Chaos Space Marines are still tough regardless on what way you cut them. So yeah, but what we're going to go into now is his fourth matchup, which was against World Eaters. So World Eaters are one of those armies that people sleep on all the time, because if you look at their data, you're like, oh, they suck, they get beat up on, they only have one way to play. I think people just play them kind of poorly, or play them too lore accurate. How about that? So they're playing them correctly, they're just doing too lore accurate where they're running into guns. In reality, World Eaters have great strats. A lot of top players actually struggle against them when you're an Ork player. So really pay attention to World Eaters. I talk about them all the time and always will, and at least for now. So let's take a look at this list. So yes, Angron, Karn the Betrayer, Lord Avocado Lord, World Eaters on Juggernaut, and Master of Executions with the Berserker Glaive. I call this guy the Master of Indirect Combat. Orks are the only real faction that have a built-in defense for him, which is fighting on death. But him, and if you haven't faced this guy, just know that he ruins the fight phase for just about every other faction in the game. And that's okay, because that's the only thing they can do, I guess. And there's just 40k how it works sometimes. Then we have the Juggernaut Lord. He's just trying to reroll some of his Khorne dice. So that's just to make sure Angron comes back. We have Jackals, Khorne Berserkers, and then another Khorne Berserker unit. This big unit most likely is being used just to escort this Executioners, and then the 5-man unit is used to execute Karn. 2 Rhinos, 1 Exalted Brick, and then a small unit of Exalted, another 5 small unit of Exalted. So that's a mate bound in there for hitting harder. Come with a couple of Berserkers and Rhinos, and then Angron to do all the heavy lifting. This matchup sometimes can matter. What did the World Eaters player really do with Angron? Did he stuff him in our face and force us to overcommit to him and then counterpunch us and get to fight in death? Or did he try to get a little finessey with Angron and end up taking too long to get him into play? Did Angron come back to 5 life 3 or 4 or 5 times? That's something we just don't have the info to. But based off how the game went, I'm assuming that either Angron just kept getting crumped or whiffed. I mean, he can get crumped by the Squigs, he can get crumped by the Nobz, he can get crumped by Gaz. So he's, in general, Angron is not looking at this matchup in favor. And like I said, Orks with our fighting in death really bother these guys. They do have reduced damage, which matters a lot. And if you own flash kits, just know they hate if you pop the flash gets into the berserker guy, so that's another way to overcome him. Overall, great job by him. And then going into his fourth matchup, he went into Eldar. Sorry, and just so you know, he ended up winning 98 points to that World Leaders player, and actually getting 100 points on this Eldar player. So we have Artark Wayleaver, Avatar and Kane, Farseer, Young Karn. So he can get back up at least with the Artark Wayleaper, Avatar and Kane, and Young Karn. The thing is, the Avatar of Kane sometimes can just survive and never die to gas, and sometimes he can just get obliterated by gas and Maz. Yavrin too. Then we have the Night Spinner. That could be very annoying for gas. And then we have Shroud Runners, Sky Weavers, Swooping Hawk, Vipers, Warp Spiders. So remember how we talked about how the Ork player had a lot of some activations, even though he heavily committed in characters. This is one of the matchups where it actually would favor him to have so many just, I have this small thing to activate and run over here and fight you, but I also have this small thing to activate and do a secondary. I have this other activate thing to run up and charge you and do mortal wounds and do tank shock or throw grenades or do bomb squigs or da-da-da. And oh, you have your Karn and your Avatar. I can kill them in a weird matchup, in a weird way, depending on the matchup. I mean, the mission and the terrain. Orks are hard for Eldar to take out, especially when they're investing heavily on their characters, but ours can actually destroy theirs and theirs cost a little more. It's weird, but hey, Orks get it done. I love to see it. And overall, great job by Vincent Chandler getting second place. You can see he actually progressively did better at the event went on, so we really like to see that. And, you know, losing to that weird Dark Angel skew list is nothing to be scoffed at, you know, nothing to be sad about. Sometimes it just happens at an event, especially because that's a bit of a newer detachment. You know, you're not going to get a lot of looks into it. You're not going to really get practice games into it. But yeah, great job for bringing Gaz and Maz, the dynamic duo. We seen that about 2 weeks ago going really hard, and it's good to see that it's still going pretty hard. So here we have, let me look at the chat and real quick before I jump into the next list. And he said 100% hero hammer. Yeah, for real. That's exactly what it looks like. And then we have I need a Gorkanaut. That's funny because I recently just got a Gorkanaut. And I'm not mad about it. I love my Gorkanaut. So let's take a look at Wong, Mr. Wong, and this was actually in Hong Kong. I thought, hey, you guys, we should take more looks at the international scene, especially after coming off the world champions. We see a player from Thailand doing great, you know. So let's take a look at everybody around the world. As you can see, though, Leagues of Votann sneaking in here. This is one of their first place placings, but Orks right behind them. And let's take a look at Eng Wong. Sorry, I'm gonna ruin your name, but still love you. So here we go with this list. We have Captain Badrug, Naban Smasher Squig with Edwapa Skill Choppa, and 2 Warbosses. One of them has a brutal but cunning. Love to fall back in charge. One thing I want to point out immediately on this list. Come on, you get 3, 2, 1. No Mozrog, no Beast Boss on Squigosaur, no Gaz. Yep, he didn't bring any of the super characters. Nope, no super characters. Besides Captain Badrug, I guess he's a super character. But you know what I mean. He didn't bring any of the very thick, durable, beefy, well-known archetypal characters. He didn't bring any of them. We have Flash Gits, 2 Gretchen units, 2 Nobz Scalpel units. Yes, that's exactly what the Warboss is for. One for fallback in charge, and the other one's just straight up to be there. Yes, I love to see it. 2 Stormboy units, 1 3-man units of Squighog Boys, 2 big bricks of Squighog Boys. Love to see that, right? And then you can see that's where his points went, right? Instead of bringing Maz or Gaz, he said more Squigs, more Nobz. That's all I want to see. 2 Warbiker units. So not only does he have the 1 3-man Squighog Boy units, 2 Stormbiker units, but he has 2 Warbiker units. So he just has Stormboys, everything activating, and then 3 trucks as the leftovers. 2 for the Nobz, 1 for the Flash Gits. As you can see, he's getting so many silly activations here between the bikers, the small squigs, the storm boys, but then he's getting serious, threatening, terrifying activations here with everything, right? Because Maz is just soaking up damage for the most part. Most people see him as, yeah, he can go off and he will go off. There's something, that happened in Edwin Cho's game. He actually ended up getting like 15 dev wound damage off on a Norn, but you can't really rely on that, right? That happens, but you can't really rely on that to happen. So this guy said, I'm going to just get stuff that's more reliably getting kills. So that's what he did. So let's look at what he did with his I'm going to crump you list. That's pretty much how I see it, because that's all he brought was just for crumping. He said, let's run. And the first thing he ran into is guys that wanted to run with the, what is this, Astra Militarum. So let's see what happened. He has a Death Rider command squad, squadron commander, Gaunt's Ghost. So these guys have like a real bunch of really cool abilities. I believe they get to like infiltrate and do weird things. But when you have Orks coming at you, they end up just being screens. Lord Leontis for his free CP, I believe. Platoon Command Squad, Engine Seer, one big unit of infantry, a Basculith, a Death Rider, Lehman Rush Demolisher, Exterminators, Rogel Tank, Scout Sentinel, another Rogel Torn Exterminator right there. And 1, 2, 3 Scout Sentinels total, 2 Tempestus Scion units, and a Gladius Assassin. It's missing his very killy indirect, of course. The Death Rider Squadron is nice to have a little punchback off, and these tanks are actually quite nice at their gun line. I feel like he does have a little bit too many tanks. He could use more transports to really come up and stuff up the Orks. But when you're running into this as an Ork player, it's very important that you get away, immediately cover the distance, kill stuff. Don't be scared like, oh, I'm gonna just I gotta hide everywhere. I'm never gonna be able to get anywhere. I'm scared to get killed. No, you're gonna die. Things are gonna have to die as an Ork player. You control it by not letting your most vital things die. Don't let your truck stand in the open, get popped by a tank. The knobs are standing in the open, and they get shot again. But when you move that truck, no, hey, if this gets shot, they're gonna disembark behind this building. I'll be okay with that my next turn. Then from here, I'll move forward. Because if you just stay back and act all hidden against these guys, they'll just keep regenning their small units that they're using for scoring, like there's Tempestus Scions, and they'll do a fixed secondary, and then they'll just win you by association, by slow, kind of burning you away and killing you. The real important thing for guard is to try to stuff them in the deployment, not allow them to keep coming in off the side of the table with their scions or their sentinels by regenning and dying. And in reality, the Norwalk Doran and these guys, yeah, you'll kill them if you can try to do dev ones. But remember, the guard have the ability to reduce your damage by 1. So if you don't have the weapons built into your list to kill this stuff, then don't focus on that necessarily, right? Kill what you can, but really just control the table and the OC, right? This guard unit right here, sometimes the right thing to do is to try not to fully kill the unit outright for it to come back on the table. Just beat it up and let it know that it can't beat you on an objective. And then when they come in later, it's coming on and not being a factor in the mission. But Wong, ended up running him over, putting up 100 points. I think guardless are a lot more terrifying when they bring a couple hellhounds or just chimeras, transport, stuff like that as well. And if you're in general in 40K, a lot of the most competitive lists and factions are taking advantage of transports, and it's very obvious why. There's a lot of different reasons for that. I'm not going to go on a tirade right here, but you'll hear me bring that up a lot where I'm like, man, transports would help. Yeah, they usually would. So we have Biologists. We have Death Guard. Death Guard, very competitive, very tough match for Orks in a lot of ways. I can always extrapolate on that, but here we go. We have Biologist Putrefier, Lord of Contagion, a Lord of Virulence with Deadly Pathogen, and then Typhus. So here he does have the free grenades, the lethal 5s, being annoying. He does have Typhus for the double compounding defense abilities, the big aura from the pathogen. So he has good selection of characters, but he doesn't have Mortarion. Then he has one big unit of Plague Marines, another small unit of Plague Marines, and a small man unit of Plague Marines. I could see the Biologist Putrefier most likely going with the big unit. That's just me. I think he becomes very vital in that big unit. Free grenade threat's awesome. Then 2 Rhinos, two Death Crowd Terminator squads, they're small units, 3 Blackburst Crawlers, 1 Poxwalker unit, 2 Nurglings, and then 2 Brigands. So instead of bringing, I guess Mortarion, he decided I'm going to just bring some Brigands or something. I do think Nurglings are great. If the player was smart, he would make sure Typhus, Nurglings are all being used to compound the -1 weapon skill on top of -1 to hit. That way Orks are just hitting horribly. If the Death Guard player doesn't take advantage of that, that matters a lot for us. And these 3-man units of Death Shrouds aren't really that terrifying as a whole. You've seen on this Ork player, he brought all the killy, right? So for the most part, you're worried like, man, do I have enough stuff to punch these guys out? They're durable, they're weird. This guy doesn't have all the small vehicles to run up the drones to clog you up. He doesn't have a bunch of rhinos to protect all his Plague Marines and have that kind of trade for trade, point for point with you as an Ork player. He's broken down into a lot of characters with small units and a lot of gunline support between triple crawlers and brigands. I always think maybe 1 crawler is enough in my opinion. But yeah, great job for him to defeat this list. Of course, the mission would matter too. I think Morty, for the most part, can be more, hit or miss. It's hard to say. I still think he's usually going to make the matchup harder because you really don't know exactly how much to match into him, and not every orc list is equipped to kill him. But there is always an argument, like if you just bring more rhinos and more space more biologists, you'll be better off with Death Guard. So it's a different list, but still a great job by him. Great job. He ended up getting 81 points right there. It was his lowest win, but still great job by them. Then we got a third game into Eldari. So you can see Orc players are just straight up beating Eldar in all these matchups. I'm not saying we always beat them, but even in the stats we looked at, they weren't terrible matchup for us. I think when you really look at how many guns they have, they usually just have enough guns, and we can kind of swarm them like that and contest the midboard before they table us. So let's see. We have the Artark Wayleaper. We have the Farseer Fugan, which I think matters with the Phoenix jump because then you have multiple guys who are dying coming back up. The Spirit Seer and the Incarn. So he didn't end up going for all the character, fightiness. He did bring the Incarn instead of the Avatar. A Night Spinner, a Night Spinner, Shadow Specters, Swooping Hawks, War Walkers, Spiders, War Spiders, and then Wraith. I do think the Wraith Guard unit is like sometimes it can actually soak up an Orc blast attack, like an Orc wall, and sometimes it can. It's just gonna get picked up and stuff. So I do as an Orc player go, hey, actually, sorry, this is not the melee version. This is the Wraith Cannon version. So they're not soaking them nothing. They're getting crumped, but they do have enough firepower to really shoot down just about anything they want in this matchup. But I'm not. I already spoiled it, but 98 points. It wasn't like it was like a very threatening matchup for that. And a lot of time is like what I say, the Orc player screening his way up the table. If he's smart, he knows not to give away easy kills with indirect fire to get the Yin Khan to end up somewhere in his backfield to pull him back. He can put the Grots off the table. He can put stuff in trucks and just go, hey, I'm going to move my way up the board. You're not going to meet me and fight me toe to toe. You're going to try to move around, and I'm going to have enough units and activations to still fight you and kill you as I can and tank your firepower on the way in. And that's just consistently been happening with Orcs. But you have to be willing to die. You have to be willing to just constantly play the mission in that way. You have to be a high level player. It's not like you just get an auto win into Eldar, but we're seeing it over and over again where Orc players have been beating the Eldar players. Now in his fourth matchup, this was actually his one loss. And it's funny because it ended up being Eldar 2, even though I said that. And that's why I was sure to say, hey, but you have to still play the mission. Because you can still lose. And in this way, he ended up losing when it was Avatar and Kane and Fugan, right? That's where not having, maybe Gaz or Maz, right, to slow those guys down or to spike damage might have actually mattered. I don't know. We have the Artark Wayleaper, the Fire Seer, and the Spirit Seer, Swooping Hawk, Warp Spiders, Wraith Guard, and then 2 Night Spinners. So you see what the Night Spinners with vehicles might have mattered, just being able to move around. But this is like all character hammer here, as you can see, right? So the mission would matter is to see how he would do it. Maybe it was, he had to purge the foe or something and there wasn't enough going on. He ended up losing this mission because, as you can see, he got 84 points. So he did score great. He just ended up losing it. And losing to Eldar is never horrible. That's why I was key to say, hey, yeah, we've been beating them consistently as we've been looking at these, but they can always beat us, and it just comes down to mission. Here's his fifth game into Space Wolf with the Gladius Task Force. Now, some Space Wolf players still think it's better to bring Gladius Task Force because they want rerolls. They enjoy the strats for the additional AP and Lancing, strat when they're in tactical and such. But yeah, keep that in mind. So we have Canis Wolfborn, Librarian, Fire Discipline, Librarian, Terminator Harbor, Wolf Lord on Thunderwolf. Aggressor, Eradicator. You can see it's just a 3-man unit of aggressors, by the way. Another Eradicator squad, Fenrisian Wolves, and then the Hounds of Mordecai. Yeah, I had to say it like that. These guys are like some weird reavers that I don't know what the heck their existence is. Inceptors, Infiltrators, Long Fangs, Redemptor Dreadnought, Suppressors, Thunderwolf Cavalry, and Wolf Guard Terminators. So you can see this guy stuck to his Space Wolf way of play. He didn't really care. Long Fangs have good built-in like buffs for shooting. I think they get rerolls and such. Don't really know what the Hounds of Mordecai do. Fenrisian Wolves for 30 points are freaking awesome. They're very fast. Imagine like Orc boys running around and punching with moving 12 inches or whatever they move, 10 inches, I think. So that's very cool. So yeah, great job by great job by Andrew Wong. So getting second place. Whoa for the Green Tide. So last but not least, which is a list I'm pretty excited to show you guys, we got James Dawson's. Now he did end up going 3-2, but I thought his list was the flavor of the month, or the flavor of the week. I really liked his list, and I don't think it's always important that we always show the guys that are just doing great, the most exceptional, because you never know who's gonna, what their list was going, who's playing in those competitive metas, what they end up rolling, the mission, da 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 da. So regardless, I thought things are really cool that I show, this list that I'm about to show right now. He goes, all these 3 chunky wound units making seriously thinking about bringing the kill tanks back, right? Or people bringing gas because of all those 3 wound units as well. Yeah, I got lucky. I dodged 2 Death Guard players. Yeah, that could end up anyway. Oh, no, Maz, blasphemy. Champa loves too much. Yeah, I mean, Edwin Cho was happy about that. Yeah, no thick, right? So the other one was all hero hammer, 100%, and then the other one is no hero hammer. So it's very funny how one list we showed was hero hammer, the other one was not hero hammer, right? I thought it was fun to kind of show you in that order with all this list. And then in this list, right, in James Dawson's list, let's take a look at this because this is even more different. He called this Suns Out, Guns Out. So he did bring gas. Love to see it. Captain Badrook. Oh, you can see right here, Mech making a comeback. We haven't seen him for a little bit. Mazrod Scragback looking like Hero Hammer again. Pain Boy, but he has 1, 2, 3. Yes, 3 battle wagons from this git and a flash gits. So he's putting a flash gits in a battle wagon with the mech, shooting, giving +1 to hit, rain making it rain DACA. Then he has 2 units of Gretchen, a 5-man units of Meganob, a 2-man units of Meganob. He's just running this solo, dude. They got no character support. The 5-man, the 2-man units is going with Gaz. A 10-man unit of Nobz for that Scalpel when you really got to take something out that's on foot. You need obviously something important got to go on in your truck, right? So in your battle wagon, you got a flash kit, you got Mega Nobz, and then you got Gaz or Mega Nobz. I'm not sure what he put where. I'm sure it was like strategic reserve on what he wanted to do and what he felt like doing. And then 2 Stormboy units, because you always need 2 Stormboy units, and then 2 Gretchen, because 1, either you're going to use in the screen your backfield, or 2, one's going to just run out there, following your trucks around, because no one's going to want to shoot them for nothing. So I thought this was a crazy list. Also, keep in mind that Nob Scalpel unit, the Pain Boy was in there instead of the Warboss. So yeah, I thought that was important to kind of show too. Like, what? Yeah, he decided I'd rather have some more guys. It could be because his army's already so elite. You would need good practice on this list, because imagine you have Gaz, Maz, Captain Badrick, Flash Kits, and the Knob Break plus 3 battle wagons. Come on, man. That's freaking sick. But remember, all the battle wagons have built-in armor from Contempt. So let's see what he ended up going into and what happened, because you can see his wins are kind of skewy here, right? We're just going to take a look at it for a second. 91, 65, 94, 46, 97. So it went, woo! And that's what happened. I mean, he kind of has a skew list, right? He's kind of stat checking people. He goes, here are my land raiders / battle wagons. Let's see what you can do. So let's see what these guys could do. Let's see this first matchup. He ended up going into Adeptus Sororitas, where he has Morgenwald, Triumph St. Catherine, Dialogus, Magifier, Palatine. He has sister squads, Arco-Flagellants, but only 1. Celestine Sacrosaints. These are like the girls with little pikes and stabbies. They're more known for like kind of standing still, not really running out there and killing. Crusaders, Retributors, Seraphim, and then 3 Exorcists. Ooh, that's awesome. 3 Exorcists. A unit of Paragon War Scoots and 2 Emulators. So he did bring some vehicles. You can see the one thing that he is missing, not that I'm like, oh, you have to have this, but is Arco-Flagellants do end up using like being a big factor in some of these missions. And he does have the Sacrosaints. Last edition, the Sacrosaints were pretty awesome and they could do a lot, but you would pretty much miss them in this. As we can see, he did bring Morgan, and he does have the kind of characters you want to activate the sisters, to get the most out of them, to have them contest objective, and to get the Retributors so they got more of their fate dice going on. So I'm sure he could have rolled pretty good, but keep in mind the battle wagons a lot of time are still going to get kind of saves against some of these units, like those Exorcists. You can get access to cover. I mean, with these silly battle wagons with the terrain rules, it'd be hard to kill, and everything's disembarking and just in your face. Plus, the battle wagons themselves are running up doing crazy tank shock. more. Imagine with triple battle wagons on the list, who has time to shoot at Maz anymore? So Maz is getting deep in your lines late game. It's a weird skew where you can see that like half of the weapons in this list aren't going to work, and then when they do work, they're just closing the distance. You're just relying on the Paragon Warsus to do everything, and if Maz gets into them, they're getting torn apart. So Sisters do want to beat Orks up in the middle of the table. They just don't really have the data sheets to do it reliably, in my opinion, right now. They would need more stuff or more fighty, like more Archivagilance. But this is something to keep in mind. Again, we have Dark Angels, but this time it is the Unforgiven Task Force. We have the Ancient Interminator armor with the Penitence of Remembrance. Azrael, Lieutenant and Combi Weapon. Then he has the Deathwing Command Squad. Boop. As you can see, Eradicator Squad. We're going to get back to, don't worry, we're going to get back to the Terminator Squad. It's just a lot. Eradicator Squad, a Hellblaster unit, of course you do. An Inceptor unit with the Basalt Bolters, another Inceptor unit with Plasma, another Inceptor unit with Plasma, 2 Redemptor Dreadnoughts, and then 2 Scouts. So Scouts, Redemptor Dreadnoughts, Inceptors. Then every Space Marine lift, not going to catch anybody off guard. You should be expecting them. We always talk about them. Hellblasters, did he bring... No, he didn't. So I guess Hellblasters just do good enough in general. On their own, they don't need certain character buffs and support, but they give great AP. They have great volume of fire. You can bring them off the table, stuff like that. So I'm not surprised. Eradicators because you need some anti-vehicle, and then the Deathwing Command Squad. So these guys have ridiculous amount of durability, OC, reducing damage. And for Ork players, we really don't like to see that, right? Our Knob unit is not going in this too well. Gaz, sometimes he goes crazy if he rolls high enough dev wounds, or he just drops a couple ones. The guy rolls too many 4-up invulns, tanks everything, and then he just ends up still winning on the objective and stuff. Eradicators typically, yeah, they might not do great into battle wagons, but they can murk them because they get to completely re-roll everything, roll hit roll and the roll, crazy AP, and then Inceptors to run around and try to dissect / score. Redemptor Dreadnoughts for that more ridiculous reducing damage capability. So that's going to just drive problems for this list. As you can see, that has a bunch of damage too, bunch of transports, and you're really just hoping, and the Mega Knobs don't have enough volume to get rid of to get through that reduced damage one. So Dark Angels are a indirect problem for Orks. Why I say it's indirect is because they're not really teching for us. They're not thinking about us. They just end up having some problematic rules and abilities that make it actually hard for us to win. This is one of those things where having more activations, running around and killing everything, like all the Inceptors, the Eradicators, the Hellblasters, and then just telling the Terminators, like, stay over there, taking over the rest of the table. That's kind of how you would deal with this list. But when you're running a skew of your own, you don't have those tools. And that's what happened here with James, which is okay. Still very fun. I'm still happy he brought that list because his next matchup called for that skew because he ran into another skew. It was Chaos and Knights. He got a Knight Rampager, another Knight Rampager. So these are big, super killy Knights. And then a War Stalker. Then he just wanted the Aura of Terror. Then he has 1 Huntsman, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Carnivores, Nurglings, and then a Skull Cannon. So he's just looking to go toe-to-toe with Orks. And whenever you're trying to go toe-to-toe with Orks, it's it's not necessarily going to go great for you because we have fight and death. Not only do we like to fight and we have enough units that are trying to fight and we punch pretty crazy, but we fight in death. And plus we have all these transports, and that's one thing his list is actually lacking is he doesn't have he doesn't have anything to pop these. I mean, you would typically want brigands, but he doesn't even have brigands. So really he has to kind of charge into the the wagons, or best he can, and everything can just disembark and get kind of the initiative off on him, and still play the mission well. So I think Chaos Knights are one of those things where if you try to meet us toe to toe to fight us, and especially if we go first, we'll mess you up on certain missions if we can cover the distance. So yeah, not too hard there. It's when a skew meets a skew, right? And our skew ended up being better into this matchup. But here's his fourth matchup. Death Fist Hands, Iron Storm Spearhead. Oop, no one's surprised about this, right? The Librarian Phobos Armor, Lieutenant and Combi Weapon, Tech Marine with targeting Augur Array, and another Tech Marine with Master of the Machine. So he's going for offense. Ballestus Dreadnought, Infiltrator Squad, Predator Annihilator, Predator Destructor. So these guys are deciding to just bring Predators back. It might be for just volume and then their points, right? Because they're like a weird point threshold where they're not too expensive. So you can fit more and more chassis on there. Wouldn't be surprising because you have to fit in the triple Redemptor Dreadnoughts, followed by 1, 2, 3 Scout Marines because you need all 3 of those, and then 2 Whirlwinds because sometimes you just have to kill stuff that's trying to stage against against those vehicles. So this is one of those things where they're trying to stat check you as an Ork player, and they actually have the firepower. So one thing I noticed is they don't have the Lancers. They do have the Predators, which they do have decent firepower because, as you can see right here, they have twin las cannons. So they still have, and they have a las cannon right here too. So they still have las cannon firepower. I think Lancers are more reliable, but when you have these kind of auto wounding on 6s, capabilities or strats for sustains and all this different kind of stuff, you can end up kind of getting away with not using Lancers. That way you can just get more stuff because it seems like this guy went for cheaper chassis just so you can get more stuff on the field, like more vehicle chassis on the field for more gun line. And you can see on the other list, he's kind of banking on having too many dreadnoughts. And if you can just, too many battle wagons, and if you could just pop 2 of those a little too early, the dreadnoughts can soak up the knobs and a lot of the 2 damage weapon. The flash kits don't really have a great target to go into here. I think the best target for them might be, I was gonna say the ballistic dreadnought, but not really if it's standing in cover. Maybe like a predator annihilator, is probably one of its better targets, sadly. And then all these scout marines are keeping the Orks back long enough, and those battle wagons, if they stay on the lanes, just be like, I'm gonna stay on the lane. You're not gonna do anything. I'm gonna shoot at you. Okay, well now you're not gonna move this, and stuff like that. So this could have gone multiple ways. It's a skew into another skew. There's nothing wrong with losing when you're playing a skew. The Iron Storm is very strong and done very well into a lot of matchups. And I think that was his 4th matchup, right? Because I was going, so that was his 4th matchup. He got the lowest score he had gotten of the day, but that's okay. And then we go into his 5th, but certainly last but not least matchup, where he went to Chaos Knights. So you had a War Stalker with Brigand, 1, 2, 3, 4 Brigands. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Brigands, 3 Carnivores, a Demon Prince with wings, 2 Flamers, and a Changeling. This again, right? The Brigands could definitely pop battle wagons. The thing is, you just roll once, and even if they do pop it, when they Orks do close a distance on the Brigands, they do nothing but stand there and just try to shoot you because they don't fight at all. Carnivores are getting destroyed in combat. It's just one of those things where Orks do have the data sheets to kind of pick up some of these guys on this list too. And we have so many activations because he brought Gaz, he brought Maz. He has odd, the Pain Boys are gonna oddly survive some of these shooting in some kind of ways. The battle wagons can do tank shock in the funny ways. The Mega Knobs do get a decent amount of attacks and fights. As you can see, though, this guy did bring combi weapons. I think I should have pointed out that as well. He brought combi weapons and power claws, which is something that I usually don't bring. But hey, that's my opinion. We have different opinions, right? So here's his last matchup, and it was a weird final list to go up against. You don't usually see like a Demon Prince incorporated. We did put up 97 wins, and we have seen Steel City GT is pretty big deal, does pretty well. So yeah, and then like I said though, this weekend all the GTs you'll cover and any you've seen on Meta Monday, none of them were like super really that busy because it was in the States. It was Thanksgiving weekend. So let's go. Well then, let me take a look at the chats. For some of you gets, see what you get. Say Sixers, baby. Let's go. Eric Decent. Was good. Whoa. Let's see. I approve as our war boss. 2 war bosses would be cool. If you could buy another one. Oh, I have 3 war bosses. So what are you trying to say? You were the superior war boss this day. Let's go. Whoa. Oh, I guess you guys played each other. Maybe they played each other. Edwin, Doug, and Dearson, triple war boss. Triple squig boss was thick though. Triple wig boss is thick. Oh, all right, you guys. So for WAAAGH Wednesday, some things to keep in mind, right? Space Marines are coming up. Power Armor is making its way. So we did also this weekend. We know Happy Crumper did go out there with this kind of different list. He has his Def Copters. He did a video on it. I did watch it too. And one thing I just noticed is he decided he wanted more AP and to bring more Storm Boys, Bikers, and Nobz. Nothing that we're not aware of in the meta as a whole and as the Ork community as a whole. He plays, I watched his channel before we made our channel, and I think even though he shows he's a super successful and very good player, and stuff like that, and he's proven himself in that kind of way, I personally think different than he does. Brad Chester thinks different than he does, and Billion Dollar Clown Farm does. So it's interesting to see how he kind of found his way to score and play his mission his own way with those death copters, which was very interesting, very powerful by him. But as a whole, as our community, we're being pushed into, hey, we need to make more AP. All these stuff are coming with reduced damage. I might need more beast bosses for dev wounds. Like, we're all coming to similar conclusions, regardless of where we are at the world, is what I'm trying to say. I'm not saying like, oh, you have to think like me. I'm saying that's what I'm kind of compiling between my games, the people I'm talking to, the other factions, and what they're looking at the meta as a whole. That's something that we should keep in mind. Like, so I was very interested to see triple battle wagons, on the list. I was really interesting to see Gaz making his way on several lists, and double 5-man Nob units being on the list. So Orks are teching into both sides of how we can play. Some Ork players are saying more damage. I'm going to throttle with more Squig Hog Boys, more Nobs, more killy potential. And some people are thinking, I want more activations. Right. So I think it's really interesting. Out of the Ork community, we should think in our own kind of parameters and bring it back together is what's the balance of killiness and multiple activations and what we really need. 2 Storm Boys and a War Biker seem a basis. 3 trucks seem like a basis. And Maz seems very important all the time for soaking up and possibly throttling damage. Something to keep in mind, Space Marines to Power Armor and these friggin' triple Norn emissary lists are come in mind, right? So overall, how does it look for Orks? I think, if anything, where we're sitting might be better for us because GW hasn't done their, balance yet, and we're not looking like as much of bullies or tyrants as we could be before, which is actually good because our units aren't going to get hit crazy, right? We don't want to get hit like crazy. But in reality, in the spring, we have our codex coming out, and GW has been doing pretty great with their codexes. I still find it kind of hard to think that Orks aren't going to be doing what we kind of do already. Like, between all of their rules and abilities, are we still going to just do sustained 6s for hitting? Because that's what we like to do. I think that if the data sheet if our data sheets change, that's what's going to be more likely to actually change how we play. Because overall, Orks just like to get stuck in. So I've been thinking about that too. All in all, the Ork community is doing a great job. We're still 3rd place for the most wins. We're tied with Leagues of Votann. Our win rate is coming down, but into a healthy place. We don't want to be below 50% because it makes us look kind of weak, but we don't want to be too high above 50 because then GW is going to be looking at us for the Nerf hammer like, what's up? So we don't want that either. So great job by the Ork community. I appreciate you all. Any of you guys find any, value here, subscribe. We have our subscription that you guys can, some of maybe you got gifted one, just grab one, see what's going on with there. We appreciate you. On Friday, we'll come back with another video about Ork tough matchups going forward, and we're gonna get some more hobby streams involved. So I appreciate all you get, and no matter what clan we are from, we all war together. Yes, that's one thing to keep in mind is we all have our own meta, ways we like to think, units that we favor, but we all come together to compile our ideas and really try to get ahead of the meta, ahead of the curve, so that Orks as a whole don't fall behind and that our community can grow. That's the point of this channel and this community, is actually to make it so more players either transition from casual to slightly competitive, even if it's just RTT level play, or people who are just straight up new learn how to play and keep playing Orks, because we are a skew faction for the fact that in the far-flung future of the 40K universe where everyone has guns and laser cannons, we have sticks and choppers. Whoa, you know what I'm saying? So we, new players kind of get like got to get their own kind of learning curve sometimes, and we're here to help with that. And that's the whole point of the channel, right? Love the wall. The wall's forever. Whoa. All right, guys. So there's one thing to keep in mind. Don't cross the wall, because we knock your teeth out. Whoa!